Fratres and sorors, the imperator of the Rosicrucian Order Amorc, Ralph M. Lewis.
Throughout the degrees of the order, there are many references to psychic sight. We likewise use the phrase psychic eyes. Exercises are given in the monographs for the development of these. Members are sometimes confused and ask, just where are the psychic eyes located in relation to the psychic self? We have answered that psychic eyes is really a figure of speech, that the more proper term would be psychic sight, and it is that which should be developed. To begin with, we must realize, as has been pointed out, that psychic impressions, that which is transmitted cosmically and received by us psychically, are extremely high vibratory rates. These vibrations are not in the octaves of our receptor senses. They transcend all such vibrations as those which we objectively discern. They do not have, for example, the same quality as sound, nor do they have the wavelengths of light, such as we experience as color, nor do they include such sensations as we associate with touch. In fact, they are in extreme ranges or octaves beyond the physical forces. Each Rosicrucian who has attained the 4th degree is familiar with the cosmic keyboard. Therein he will note that we have shown scientifically that the phenomena of the cosmic are all arranged mathematically according to a scale, that certain manifestations and phenomena occur in various octaves. We are able to discern objectively only a comparatively few of these octaves. The psychic impulses are far beyond the rates of electrical waves, radioactive matter, and cosmic rays. Yet we are able to discern them. Psychic impulses can be translated into objective sensations which we can experience. The psychic impulses are not reduced, their nature is never altered, but we do interpret them under certain circumstances as having visual characteristics, namely form, dimensions, colors. At other times they are perceived as being auditory, as a voice or message, or they may seem tactile, that is, as producing waves of feeling, warmth or coldness. The psychic impulses are received by the sympathetic nervous system. It is this sympathetic nervous system which is attuned to these higher frequencies. It is responsive to them. The psychic centers, then, being acted upon, induce into the spinal nervous system impulses of lower octaves. We may look at it in this way. The sympathetic nervous system receives the psychic impulses. They are carried to the psychic centers. Within these psychic centers, vibrations are set up which are far lower in the scale than the psychic ones, just as every musical tone in the scale has a harmonic in the octaves far below or above it. These lower vibrations, then, are transmitted as energy impulses along the spinal nervous system. Finally, these impulses enter the brain, where they actuate certain areas of the cerebrum and produce in these areas sense data or sensations which are related to one of the objective senses. The brain area which is most responsive at the time the psychic impulses are received produces, as we have said, results which are related to it. If the most responsive area is auditory, then we experience the psychic impulses as sounds, as voices, or as music. On the other hand, if the area which is acted upon in the brain is related to the visual sense, then the psychic images are of a visual nature, that is, things seen. Now we know that for objective impressions, those of which we wish to become particularly aware, we must concentrate. We must direct our attention to that which we want to see or that which we want to hear, and the other senses are accordingly suppressed. Even when we are not concentrating, when we are not making one of our senses particularly sensitive to stimuli, one of the areas related to our objective senses may predominate. If a psychic impulse comes through at that time, it will be translated into terms of that particular objective sense which is dominant. The transmitters of psychic impulses, those who are trying to send a message to us through the cosmic, may have certain preferences. They may desire that we receive the message in a visual form, or they may wish us to have it in an auditory or in an olfactory sense, such as the smell of incense or the fragrance of flowers. Though one may desire us to experience the psychic impressions in a certain way, we may have the experience in an entirely different manner. The reason for this is, as we have stated, that one or another of the areas related to our objective senses might be particularly sensitive at that time, and thus the psychic impulses would be interpreted in the qualities of that area. Consequently, if we want our psychic impulses to have a visual nature, to appear to us as something to be seen, then we must quicken or stimulate the psychic sight. This means that we must stimulate that area of the brain by which the impulses are interpreted in a visual sense. We know that the body often generates more energy than it consumes. We are told in our monographs how our bodies consist of two polarities of energy, and how these polarities are replenished in our body, one through the food we eat, and the other through breathing. A normal person will generate excess energy, that is, more than he usually expends in his physical or mental activities. This excess energy radiates from the nerves of the thumb and the first two fingers on each hand. To conduct experiments in psychic sight, it is necessary to use this excess energy to stimulate or awaken that area of the brain which translates psychic impulses into that which has a visual nature. Now, this should be accomplished by sitting relaxed with the feet apart. In this particular exercise, one takes the first two fingers after the thumb on each hand and presses these fingers together. He then places the two fingers of each hand lightly against his temples. The pressure should not be great enough to cause discomfort, and one must be certain that the thumb and the other fingers do not touch the temples. A slight warmth will be generated, and after a few minutes, a magnetic sensation as a tingling will be felt. Next, the eyes should be closed and a deep breath taken and held as long as comfortable. The eyes then should be opened, and as one exhales, one should try to look toward a dark area in the room, or at least in an area that is dimly lighted. If you have been successful in stimulating psychic sight, images will seem to form. You will be interpreting the psychic impulses you may have received at that time as visual forms. Brothers and sorors, let us be clear on one point. As the monographs have pointed out, what you see on this occasion is not occurring theurgically, that is, as strange phenomena outside of you. It is not happening within the space of the room. What is occurring on the screen of your own consciousness. Remember that you are stimulating an area in your brain where the impulses transmitted along your spinal column to that area are being experienced as visual sensations. This, then, is what is meant by developing psychic sight. We must point out again that psychic impulses are formless. They have none of the determinate qualities of sounds, forms, or any sensations which we objectively know. They produce these things within us. You can channel these psychic impulses through any one of the five senses. When you quicken your psychic sight, you are making them assume a visual form. Many persons have had the experience of smelling a strong scent of incense in their sanctum or in some room of their home where no incense had been burned recently, if ever. Such is definitely a psychic impression. It does not mean that the scent of incense was transmitted to them, but rather that the olfactory sense of their objective consciousness was dominant at the time, and the psychic impression was translated as the fragrance of incense. If at that particular time they had tried the exercise of quickening the psychic sight, in all probability the same psychic impressions would have assumed some visual form.